What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another Dragon Ball Super card game video. My name is D-Free. Here today in this video, we will talk about one of my favorite builds so far. Now, this is a deck that I've been working on for about a month now, going in and out, adding new cards as we got new cards revealed and stuff for set 5. Of course, it stands to see improvement depending on preference in certain matchups, but we'll come back to that stuff later. But anyways, we're going to talk about Soul Striker, the original leader from the starter decks. Hope you guys enjoy. Hit that subscribe if you are new. We will be pumping out probably a few videos a week, so make sure you enable notifications, especially moving into set 5 and further sets as well. So that being said, if you don't know what Soul Striker does, front side, when he swings, he untaps an energy. Awaken draws 2 cards. And then on the back side, when he's Super Saiyan Blue, during your turn, if you have 5 or more energy, he gets an additional 5,000, which is good for pressuring the opponent or other battle cards, whatever the case is. And then, of course, when he attacks now, he draws. He does not draw on the front side, unfortunately. If he came out today, he might, but nonetheless does not draw on the front side. Backside, though, he does. And now he restands 2 energies as opposed to 1. So there's insane value from this leader on the backside, which is why he's just going to always be relevant, I think, in this game. One of the only leaders that can actually manipulate energy that freely every single turn. So that being said, let's move into the deck list. So we have the singleton of a black card, and we have the few Shattered and Misty. So the way that this card breaks down to me is, in my opinion, I wanted this card as an option for extremely late in the game. You'll see why. I play a higher curve as well. There are a lot of cards that I can play later in the game, and I really have very minimal punishing for doing so, but I wanted this because I don't really feel the need to play a lot of black cards these days. Like, I know that there's the Supreme Kai of Time 3-drop that's really, really good, but I have a lot of cards in my deck that really want me to have sparking, you know, things of that nature. So playing black cards that are overwhelmed, you know, to be more specific, isn't conducive to that. But I felt like the one of late in the game, big whoop, right? So anyways, moving on. We have the Legendary Flute, the single. This is a really good card for a lot of different reasons. It works incredibly well with Raging Spirit Son Gohan. It works very well with Oath Power Tapion if you needed to do it for that, if you needed to force an Awaken, if you didn't see a pan or whatever the case is, right? Also works well on the opponent's board if they have something like, for example, Yajirobe, which we've run a couple of. You can bounce it back. It works very, very well with the East Kai because she's a one, when you play her, you draw a card. So you can double up your draw. You can play her and then flute her back, which gives you a draw, and then you play her again, and you're just drawing a lot. Like, there's little plays like that that work very well with this card, so I don't really see a reason not to run it. You only can run 1 in your deck, though, but I don't really see a reason not to run it. So as far as that's concerned, let's come over here and take a look at it from this view. Now, as you see here, you have to have a 3 or less cost. So it's a free card. It can also be an energy or an objection pitch, I guess, if you want it to be. So next we have the 4 pans. Now the pans are actually really interesting because she's good because she comes right back to your hand. So there's no reason to kind of like be worried about her. And the thing about the leader and the synergy with Pan is, like, for example, on your first turn where you can attack, if you play Pan, you of course just tap 1 energy, so you're tapped out technically. But from there you can you know, swing with Pan and then swing with your leader, get that energy back and save it for defense, like a Raging Spirit, an Unbreakable, whatever you want to do, right? Like, there's no penalty for things like that. It's very reminiscent of the Super Saiyan 3 Goku leader that is now banned indefinitely from the game, but there's not very much penalty when you have a leader that's this good, just depending on the order in which you do things, right? And that's pretty much the premise for this whole deck. It's just a lot of energy manipulation and different options in a toolbox type of way whenever you get to the point where you can kind of play whatever you want, right? So Pan, really, really good, comes back to your hand. She's defended at the end of the turn, so she's not like a Trunks or a Kaba that instantly becomes a target when they swing once. Moving on, the 4 Senzu Beans, definitely need that. Energy manipulation, defense, offense, whatever you want. Dimension Magic over the Whis Coercion. Now, the thing about Whis Coercion is it's amazing. If you leave the energy up, you just keep utilizing the same energy. But Dimension Magic, in my opinion, is a little bit better because it's also a self-awaken. For one, if you have Sparking 5, you can pull a life and activate it. So that's good. It also untaps 2 energy, so it's kind of like Senzu Bean. So even if you have the 1 energy up, whereas Whis Coercion would only allow you to restand 1 energy, this one allows you to untap 2, albeit they need to be blue, but that doesn't matter in this deck. So altogether, I just feel like this has insane value for different reasons. Late game, if you're tapped out, you know, because you went for a very aggressive play and it didn't pay off, you have the Dimension Magic. You can probably pull the life. You would have to pull the life in that scenario, actually. And then you could restand 2 energies, which then can be used for Raging Spirits, Unbreakables, just common defense that you would want. East Kai is a 1-drop draw. Like I said, synergizes well with the flutes. She allows for, let me go back over here. She allows for just filling out the curve. If I get to a point where I have an extra energy and I don't mind using it, you know, or extra couple of energy, and I just want to use it, you know, for the extra draw, right? Because the thing about these cards you need to remember is you can draw for her, for example, and then combo her out as a battle card, so it can defend you as well. So she's really good value in that scenario, right? So just to kind of fill out the curve, that's why there's only a couple of them in there. Now, objections, I have 4 of them in here. This is something I have really never done prior to this deck, and here's my reasoning behind this. Objection with my leader is disgustingly good because there are a lot of scenarios where I can end that turn with 3 untapped energy, whereas I started with literally only 1 energy active. So you go into your turn 2, which I guess it kind of depends if you were able to awaken or not. If your opponent, this is very situational, right? If you were able to awaken because your opponent rushed you or whatever the case is, but there is a scenario in there where you can do something like that, even if that's not the exact case. Objection into a swing from the leader, unawoken or awoken, is still really good value because you still get at minimum 2 energies that are active, right? So bonusing an energy, and really I wanted to see this card guaranteed turn 2. I wanted to, and of course 4 is the best thing you can do to do that, but you know, I wanted to make sure that I had a way on turn 2 to manipulate energy, right? Now Yajirobe, he's here to play on curve as well and be a solid defender. Revenge blockers are always nice. Just like the East Kai, though, a lot of the reason why some of these cards are good is because they can be played under my untaps. For example, on my turn, under the untap from the leader, under the untap for the Super Saiyan 3 Goku, things of that nature, right? So they can fill out curve, and Yajirobe just fits into that. So that's part of the reason why he's here. Also, only a couple of them. I didn't really feel like I needed 2, but I did have the 4 objections. And one of the things that I wanted to do with this deck was make sure that every turn I had maybe like 4, 5, 6 different options to play. So for example, turn 1, I had 6 options to play, right? I have the 4 Pans and then the 2 Kais. Turn 2, I have, you know, 6 options here, but then we get out and we extend a little bit further when I talk about the West Kai over here for a couple other options to play. So I have 8 cards that are turn 2 based that I would play. Ignoring the Raging Spirit because I never would hard cast him, but going into turn 3, I have 5 cards that you play, right? Ideally, you probably objection a second time on turn 3, to be honest, but that's fine, right? Or you play the West Kai, whatever. So there's that. That's what I wanted to do when I went for this deck build. So, Courageous Heart Yajirobe, pretty much there to fill out curve. Now we have our super combo, 4 of, definitive, you need them. I would say, honestly, since I'm playing Fu, I probably will swap this for the other super combo, any other super combo really, because not having sparking on all these other cards, that's manageable, but not being able to draw from my leader can be really bad. If I get in a position where Fu doesn't end the game, I probably would want to make sure that I have, you know, a different one that doesn't require sparking 5. So I think I'm going to change that. Anyways, moving on. Card that can be played on curve here. Also, another energy battery. Also works well with the flute. If you happen to tap her, you can bring her back and play her later on or the same turn because, again, your leader does untap too. She can be used offensively or defensively for the untap. And she also has barriers, so she can stay on the board. The deck has very few barrier threats. So that's one of the things you need to be aware of as well. So very good card. Now, she's a replacement for Objection on turn 2. That's why there's 2 of them. So effectively, I have quote-unquote 6 copies of Objection on the deck. So that's what I wanted to do, make sure that I did that. And, you know, there's a way you can play this deck and swap these ratios and have 4 of her and 2 of Objection if you wanted to do it that way. To me, I went for the guaranteed energy, right? Because I don't know how much there's going to be board removal, ignoring barrier, things of that nature, where she just can't stay out there. So if she gets bounced back or is chain Zenoed or whatever, you're stuck. You lost that energy and things like that. So, of course, you can play her again essentially for free if your leader's flipped because you untap the 2 back. But still, I digress. I'd rather have the guaranteed energy, which is why I chose Objection. And I don't really mind the low hand size because early game, it's not so bad, especially because I draw 2 more on the flip and I can manipulate my energy freely. But also, on the other hand of that, it's good against Cell in a way because I'm keeping my hand size low to have the objections. Raging Spirit, just here for the combo defense, works very, very well with Dimension Magic or my leader's untap ability. So just have something to play on your opponent's turn. Also puts another 15k body on the board. Tapion is here to force Awaken, so if I played Pan for a couple of turns, got down to 6. I could just play Tapion and force myself to 4, because the sooner I awaken, the better, pretty much. Like, pretty much most leaders that applies to. So, anyways, we have Tapion here for the Force Awaken. Now, I have a 5-card split between the Vegeta and the Vegito. They essentially do the same thing. When they're rested, your opponent cannot attack your battle cards, or your, excuse me, not your battle cards, your leader. So they have to swing over this card. And in order to do that, they need to expend resources. It's a little bit harder to get over Vegito because he does not have the minus 5k on the opponent's turn like Vegeta does. But I went for this split. I was speaking to Android. He said that he felt like these were a little bit redundant. And really what this is to me is when I get to later in the game, right, 1s drops, 2 drops, even 3 drops, including Vegeta, are cards that I can play on curve. Because I'll have so much energy manipulation, ideally, that it doesn't matter to me. And if I can play multiple Vegetas and a Vegito or things like that, I just kind of will never really get hit. So that's ideally what I was going for. But I didn't want it to get cloggy, so there's no 4. There's only 2 Vegetos. They do the same thing to me. Vegito, of course, does a draw, but nonetheless, that's pretty much what I chose. So when it comes to 4-drops, I felt like this Gotenks was too good not to run. He's another barrier double striker. I don't have very many barrier cards. I have these 2 that are barrier when rested. Well, this one's barrier always. This one's barrier when rested. I have this. The Gogeta's not barrier. The SS3 Goku is, and then her, and that's it. Like, I don't really have a whole lot of barrier. So I'm anticipating, needing a little bit more, but we'll see what happens. But anyways, the 4-drop Gotenks is amazing for board clear. Pretty much it. Double striker as well. I didn't want to get too heavy with him because he does mill 5 from my deck. So, which is, I mean, not bad because it works well if I lose my sparking for whatever reason. He's one of the only ways I can instantly recover from that if, Few kills me. But, and there's a way where with this leader, I can play this Few on turn 6, assuming that I have an SS3 Goku out there. I can swing with the Goku, swing with the leader, then drop a Gotenks because I just untap 4 energy, or even like Senzu Beans or whatever, right? Or if you really want to get cheeky, you can play the combo trunks, the 2-drop trunks. So you can just manipulate energy like a madman. So there's that. Anyways, Gogeta, this card is actually insanely busted. You draw 2, and of course, there's no Union Fusion. I just hard cast him. But if I've objection twice, this is a turn, 3 play? Because turn 2 and turn 4 play. He could come out relatively quick. I mean, he could come out turn 3, right? If I'm doing my math right. Because I go to 3 energy turn 2, and then I go up to 5 energy turn 3. Yeah, I could. If I objection or play West Kai, whatever the case is, between those 2 turns, I could play him really easily. What he does is when you play him, you draw 2 cards, which is insane. And also, you choose 2 of your opponent's battle cards, no power restriction, and then place them at the bottom of their owner's deck in any order. Gotenks, by the way, has a power restriction, but you can choose up to 100 cards. That's not a typo. You could choose literally everything they have and get rid of it, except for barrier threats. Again, can't do barrier threats here either, but insane value. Especially when I can get to a point later in the game where I just drop a couple of them. Like, if I can play them concurrent, like, consecutively. Like, I just drop one, and then another, and it's just like, that's way too much value. Especially because they draw 2 cards. And 25k body as well. So we have another 25k body. 6-drop here, Dragon Fist Goku. Effectively the only thing that really gets rid of barrier in my deck, but he's really, really good. He was actually at 2 initially. I bumped him up to 3 just because of the utility and all of the untap. And if I get a couple of these on board, I don't want to say I win the game, but I pretty much do, because that's just too much free energy between that and the leader. And then, of course, the Senzus as well. When he attacks, though, I choose one of my opponent's battle cards, ignoring barrier, and return it to the opponent's hand, which is insane value because now they have to expend the energy to play that again. And if it was a big threat, then that was great for me, right? And then on top of that, choose up to 2 of your opponent's, choose up to 2 of your energy, and then, of course, switch them back to active. And then last but not least, we have the super combo here to draw. So there's just a lot of energy manipulation, a lot of plays that I like to see. And then, like I said, later on in the game, when I have 6 or 7 energy, I can do things like swing with the Dragon Fist or play the Dragon Fist or whatever, and then swing with him, swing with the leader, and now I have 4 or 5 energy restood, and I can play Gogeta or things like that. I can even combo with the Senzu and then drop another Dragon Fist and then swing with him and then untap 2, and all of a sudden I've removed 2 things from the board and I still have energy up. I can even reliably tap out there and play a Yajirobe and then defend myself with Dimension Magic and Yajirobe ideally. So like there's a lot. So that's what I like to see. Hope you guys enjoy. Leave a like if you guys enjoyed it, and subscribe if you're new for more content. That is it, guys. Take it easy, and peace out.